What do you say, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Quarterback on the Bama Insider YouTube channel as we talk about Alabama and everything going in football for the Crimson Tide. We'll slide into a little basketball as well. Maybe when we talk about Auburn. You know that's because things aren't going well there. We love to talk about that, right? Isn't that mean? But anyway, look, we're going to talk about that tonight on Monday Night Quarterback. But like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. And Monday Night Quarterback is presented by Westgate Luxury Condominiums, westgateal.com, located 200 feet from Bryant-Denny Stadium, right there in the heart of Tuscaloosa. You're talking about being next to the Strip. You're talking about being near the Walk of Champions. You're talking about the Quad, Denny Chimes, campus, all of those things, westgateal.com. Units are still available. If you're looking to buy 1 to 5 bedroom units, they're oversized balconies that give you a great view of Tuscaloosa, all of those things, including the awesome kitchens, and then the Skygate Club, which is on the roof. And game days are, I'm talking about the best tailgating you're ever going to do. And then you look over and you're like right next to the stadium. Some people didn't even want to go to the game. They just wanted to stay there and hang out with us. That's where we did our post-game show. So Chris Daughtry behind the scenes with us. He's Trey Yannity. I'm Mick Gillespie. Great to have all of you guys with us. Trey, what's up, dude? I'm noticing right now that you are not in your home studio.
Yeah, I'm all over, man. This is the third studio in 3 weeks for Monday Night Quarterback. So good to be in our far North Pole studio, I guess is what I'll call it for Bama Insider. Up here in South Carolina, knocking out the appointments and that round of stuff, but I'm doing great, man. This is what I think should be a holiday. I've made the argument for it. I've lobbied for it for maybe a decade now. The day after the Super Bowl, and I know you guys out there are with me, needs to be a day off for America. I mean, this is a national holiday. Yesterday, at least the game is on a Sunday every year, but we know you guys went out and partied and had a great day. So, hopefully you're taking it easy today and your bosses out there will give you a little bit of slack for Super Bowl Monday, I think is what we should call it. And, today's a double holiday. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. Mick, I know for you, it's a triple holiday with your anniversary today. And, I have to note the genius behind your decision there, the strategy to double up on the Valentine's Day and the anniversary. So I commend you for it. And I hope you have a great anniversary. Great Valentine's Day to everybody. Guys, like Mick said, hit the like button, get in the comments, let us know what you're thinking about Valentine's Day, about this Super Bowl, everything going on in Bama football. But like you said, a lot to talk about. Bryan Harsin, of course, basketball back on track, and great Super Bowl, one that I had the Bengals. I wanted the Bengals at least, but I was really just excited to see an excellent game, and another game that was decided by 3 points. What a crazy playoffs.
Yeah, look, I'm with you on the holiday. I mean, had a good time last night, drank some Yinglings, watched the Super Bowl, around friends, right there near the Floribama at our buddy Boyd threw this awesome party, and I would love nothing better than to have today off, but that's just for us, maybe this is kind of having the day off, we get to talk sports, but what a great Super Bowl. You know what? Bama had some players in this game. Really one guy, a couple other guys are going to get rings, but A'Shawn Robinson, tremendous in the football game, part of the Rams defense that was really, highlighted by Donaldson and Miller, right? Von Miller and Josh Donaldson. But it was A'Shawn that was in there stopping the run.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you talk about this Rams defense in general. They kind of relied on each other. And you heard Stafford say in the post-game interview, that's what he loved about this team, just the confidence that they gave to each other. Last night, I kind of pegged Jalen Ramsey, it was going to be the guy. He ended up being the guy that got burned over and over again last night. But you see Robinson step up. You see Donald, of course, step up and, finally get that ring. Going to be excited to, kind of see if he continues in the game of football. But, shout out to these Bama guys, man. Every single year, somebody is getting a ring. This year, it's Robinson. I know Carson Tinker as well is going to be getting a ring. Kind of a crazy story there with the one-game contract after one-game contract like we talked about before our show today. And, just the excitement of these guys. I saw pictures on Twitter last night, really one from Carson Tinker that, warmed my heart up a little bit with his family, making it through that journey at the end of the season here, just to be on the roster, to get that Super Bowl ring. You can tell that for this franchise, for guys like Carson Tinker, for guys like Robinson, the rest of that Rams defense, this just meant something a little bit extra. It wasn't another Super Bowl with Tom Brady. It wasn't another Super Bowl where we saw the same two teams. These were two franchises that, were desperately in need of a Super Bowl. I think it was since 1999 that we'd seen the Rams, get a victory in the game at least. And of course, for the Bengals, they've now lost 3 Super Bowls decided by a combined 12 points. So, hearts out to our Bengals fans out there. I know we had some of the comments last week, feeling for you guys today. This was a tough one, but for the Bama guys, congratulations. Good to see at least one guy make an impact and others be around the team at least. But, Bama doing it again, putting guys in the NFL, putting guys in position to get a ring. And I saw a few more guys get a ring last night.
And I meant Aaron Donald. I don't know why I said Josh Donaldson. A bit baseball part of my brain. I don't know. Maybe it was too many, Yinglings last night. But yeah, I mean, look, what a Super Bowl it was. And, how cool is it to see, to see Robinson get a national championship at Alabama, like every player seems to do, and then go on and get a Super Bowl in the NFL. But I thought it was great, though, for Carson Tinker after the tornado in 2011 that I was, part of the crew that drove around afterwards. And I think it changed a lot of us. Of course, he was affected, and I'm sure something that he'll never, I don't know how he could ever forget. Him and his girlfriend were in a bathtub trying to get away from the storm, and she didn't survive. And when we were on these golf carts in the community just trying to help out, we stopped, and I was on there with a couple of football players who were on the team at the time. I didn't realize why they stopped, and they wanted to go inside the house that had a tree on the roof, and the roof was missing in a lot of parts. And anyway, just always pulling for him because of the tragedy that he had to overcome in his life. That was a lot more personal than many of us. But on that day, so many were lost in Alabama and across the South. So I was just, personally, I was just happy for him.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like you said, for Tinker, for everybody that day, don't want to get too far off on this side tangent, but, just the response from the community and to see guys like this go on and use that, I think is a big motivation for, the rest of their journey and the rest of their career to, make right for those people that, weren't able to make it out of that day. And, guys, I don't want to be, a disclaimer guy, PSA guy today, but it's that time of the year again. I mean, we're starting to get into tornado season, so make a plan, be safe about it, because it's certainly about to become that time of the year. But, ultimately for Tinker, Robinson, I'm trying to think maybe a couple others on
Terrell Lewis.
Well, I don't
think he played, but he gets a ring,
Yeah, exactly. Just so happy for these guys because there's nothing like it. Like you said, winning a national title is one thing, but winning the game, winning the Super Bowl, being able to do both, what an accomplishment for so many of these guys. Really credit to Nick Saban for getting these guys both of those opportunities, and now for these guys going and capitalizing on it.
Yeah, were you surprised by the outcome? 23-20 was the final. Was like a Matt Stafford drive. I saw Matt Stafford beat Alabama when he was at Georgia in an overtime game. I'll never forget that. I was there as a fan, and he threw a touchdown to end the game. And he's been on this awful Lions team and franchise for all these years. The Rams go out, they trade for him because they thought that this would happen. And then at the end of the game, he takes him downfield, and you know what? They score and they win the game.
I mean, what a crazy story. What a crazy turnaround for Matt Stafford in the last year. I thought this was a really good move. I think their defensive pieces maybe won in this championship game, but I didn't think Matt Stafford was going to go in and be able to just completely change the culture immediately. And they had been very successful. Obviously, they made the Super Bowl back in 2018, and it looked really good these last couple of seasons as well. But I hate to say it for my Lions fans out there, but maybe Matt Stafford was the truth. Maybe there was an option to figure something out there and get them a ring because, one year and a Super Bowl, that speaks volumes about the kind of player he is. And how about Eminem coming out too, giving them the double middle finger at halftime with his performance there. But, overall, credit to Matt Stafford. Cooper Kupp, obviously the MVP in this game with, a couple touchdowns there and some big plays. I don't think anybody could defend this guy throughout the season. So, the storylines really came to fruition. And, I think all the guys that deserved credit got it last night. They got their big moments in that game. I really didn't want to rule out Joe Burrow and this Bengals team until those clocks at 0, because I thought there was some kind of magic in there. We've seen it throughout the entire playoffs. This guy just kind of find a way, gets past Patrick Mahomes, gets to the Super Bowl. I thought the stars were aligning. I thought there was some magic in the air, but credit to this guy right here, Cooper Kupp. Unbelievable season, one of the best receiving seasons, maybe the best season a receiver has had in the entire league's history. Very deserving of the Super Bowl. I think this is great for the future of the NFL year after year. And it's, no fault to Tom Brady for being greatness and getting his team there, but we saw the same player, the same team, the same few teams in the Super Bowl. And, you could argue the Rams maybe are the new dynasty of the league, but I think this game, really these playoffs kind of suggest parity to come. It's going to be a four-legged race in the AFC now, potentially. In the NFC, the Bucs aren't going to be that dynasty anymore. And, it's kind of wide open at this point. So love where the NFL is heading. I think this year's playoffs, this year's Super Bowl, the icing on the cake to an unbelievable playoffs, and just a really good sign of what's to come in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm watching Cooper Kupp, and I'm thinking maybe Slade Bolden feels like he could kind of be that next Cooper Kupp type of guy.
Oh, yeah.
Alabama receiver that is in the NFL draft. I don't know that he'll get drafted. I mean, obviously Cooper Kupp, when he went to college, he didn't get any stars. No one thought that he was going to be anything, and then now he's the best receiver in the NFL. Do you think that Bolden could draw those comparisons one day?
Potentially. I think Slade Bolden, will maybe find a little bit more success over the middle or on the outside, some shorter distance, maybe be a shorter distance kind of receiver. Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody can match this separation speed we saw from Cooper Kupp this year. I mean, the dude on some of these plays, even last night, 4 or 5 yards on Jalen Ramsey's the best cornerbacks in the league. Slade Bolden could. I'm not going to limit, what he can do in his career. We've seen a lot of guys with his kind of play style. Hunter Renfrow, I think a really good example in the NFL right now. 2 guys that are smaller, a little less athletic, but finds ways to get open. And, I think finds ways to just create value for his team. Cooper Kupp is a superstar at this point. He is an elite receiver in the NFL. Slade Bolden doesn't have to be that. I don't think he's going to be that necessarily, but I think he is, going to be an Adam Humphries, a Hunter Renfrow, value kind of wide receiver that just kind of creates space on the field, if nothing else. If he can get to that level of Cooper Kupp, obviously he is at the pinnacle of football. And, this guy was the Gatorade player of the year in Louisiana. He was a highly touted recruit and can play on both sides. I don't think they're going to try that in the NFL necessarily, but this dude brings a lot to the table skill set wise, different kind of receiver, but I really think the sky's the limit for Slade Bolden in the NFL. And I know he caught a little bit of backlash making that decision after this season, but, I'm kind of with him here. I think he can go make money and maybe get a shot somewhere. We've seen it. Guys like him have success recently.
Yeah, well, that'd be great for him. And, honestly, I think he's a long shot to get drafted by a team. He's going to have to work his way up, I think, from a practice squad situation, but anything can happen. And we would love to see him, be able to do something in the NFL. That it's going to be tough to duplicate Cooper Kupp right now, who's the best receiver and now an MVP of a Super Bowl championship for the LA Rams. First time that the LA Rams have ever won one. Now St. Louis Rams won one, but not the LA Rams. Guys, you're watching Monday Night Quarterback here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, give us a thumbs up. He's Trey Yannity. I'm Mick Gillespie. Show is brought to you by Westgate Luxury Condominiums right there next to Bryant-Denny Stadium. Find out more at westgateal.com. All right, let's go to the other side of Alabama, down to Lee County, and talk about Auburn football. What a turbulent week for Bryan Harsin, who honestly I feel bad for. And I've seen Alabama kind of do the same thing to their coaches over the years that Auburn did to Harsin. Harsin's had a lot of trouble in his first year. He's had, 5 different coordinators leave. The team ended up losing 5 straight games to end the season, almost beat Alabama in the Iron Bowl, right? And all of a sudden, all these things started coming out about this guy that made it look like he was going to get fired. And he was at the basketball game for Auburn on Saturday, got a nice round of applause from the people in attendance. Somehow he survived, but Auburn football takes a huge hit just because of this entire Bryan Harsin fiasco.
Yeah, Mick, I mean, regardless, like you said, I think, whatever comes of this, this is not a good look for Auburn. And, for Bryan Harsin, I don't really know what this means. And I don't want to, make any assumptions about what exactly happened or, what was suspected at least. But, there's obviously a little bit of dislike there between some of these maybe Auburn boosters or some of the faithful and Bryan Harsin. And, you kind of hinted at it. I think if Auburn wins, 10, 11 games this year, if they beat Alabama even in that Iron Bowl, they're able to finish that off. We don't maybe see this come about. I don't want to speculate about anything, but it just, makes you scratch your head a little bit when the guy goes on vacation and then all this starts to come out and, he's just kind of left in a weird spot where, he has to defend himself now. And, just the timing, if nothing else, is a bit suspicious. Right when the season ends, where it would be easy for the program to move on and, make a new hire easier than it would be during the season. This just kind of adds up, really interestingly. I don't know if the timing is just coincidental or, what really went down there. But I think Bryan Harsin is going to remain at Auburn for, a decent bit here. They're going to give him his fair shot. Headlines like these can ruin a coach's career. We've seen it in the past with guys like Urban Meyer and, other characters throughout the college game. I think for Bryan Harsin, this one really kind of caught me by surprise because from what we've heard, what we heard in Mobile a couple of weeks ago when we went to a speech of his, very competent dude, very determined dude and focused on that Auburn program. This guy can recruit. This is a good coach and he's had success at all of his other stops. So I don't really understand the, kind of the backlash that he's gotten. It's Auburn. It's a hard place to win. You're in the SEC West. Your rival is Alabama. They got him at home this year. They had a chance to beat them. Of course, they should have won that game. But, ultimately, this is year one for Bryan Harsin. He had the coaching changes. He's now had the transfers, and his program is kind of up in the air, which is why I think, maybe some of this stuff did come out because people aren't really happy right now. But overall, I'm with you. I think this is ridiculous. I don't think Bryan Harsin, deserves all this speculation, if nothing else, because we don't know what's true. And, for a guy that has done nothing but get to Auburn and be focused on the program, walk around campus, meet students, meet the boosters, get to know everybody and, really get to know his program. And I think, for year one, you sometimes kind of throw out the results. Look at Nick Saban's year one and look at a lot of these great coaches year one. Dabo Swinney, he had a losing record in his first season at Clemson. So, I think ultimately maybe it was just frustrations from the Auburn fan base. Hopefully, those people are able to get over that if that is the case. But, speculation aside, I really hate that all of this had to come out about a guy that I think has really done as good of a job as he could to this point. And a dude that has seemed, so competent and like such a good guy from what we've gotten to understand over the last year.
One of the magical things about Nick Saban is that he's able to, and when early on, I mean, you talk about the 2007 season, and I can't really compare him to Bryan Harsin. I mean, people were so excited about Nick Saban being there. There was, a sellout for the 8A game. And then, recruiting, I mean, right away, he's like, number one recruiting class. And, there was just a bunch of momentum. Harsin's had trouble recruiting, and he's having a tough time keeping assistants, and players are transferring and they're talking about him when they leave. So I can't compare that, but I can compare dealing with boosters and dealing with people who are influencers in the athletic department. And, Saban came in, it's like, look, it's going to be my way or the highway. And a lot of those characters that think they're helping that aren't helping kind of got pushed to the side. And for Harsin, obviously there's different fractions that, some of them don't think he's going to succeed. And honestly, I don't think he's going to succeed either. And I think that this just creates a lame duck season for Bryan Harsin. And then eventually he'll get fired. They set him up to be fired. So it's probably the same people that wanted to hire another coach that didn't get picked. Maybe Kevin Steele, who was trying to angle for the job when Gus Malzahn was there. Who knows? But it's a bad situation for Auburn. And I think it does nothing but help Alabama.
All day long. I mean, when there's trouble on the other side of the state, Alabama fans aren't too opposed to that. And credit to Auburn for having the season of basketball they've had. They obviously went down to Arkansas this past week, which hurt things there. But overall, Auburn's going to be okay. And like you said, maybe this was a setup. Maybe this was a hire that they thought would be a 1-year guy. And I don't know if anybody really expected, the amount of transfers this offseason and everything else, but. Like you said, I don't know if this is a great fit. I think Bryan Harsin is a good coach. I think he can recruit well. We're not seeing it yet, though. And, I think impatience is the hot word over on the Plains right now, because when you're winning at basketball and, when the program on the other side of the state is still dominating with a 70-year-old coach that has now done it for a decade plus, you want to win quickly. And a guy like Bryan Harsin that doesn't have the reputation like Nick Saban, doesn't have the staying power of a coach that has won elsewhere, had proven success at a high level like the SEC, you might get frustrated and a little bit more hesitant to continue with this guy. I hope they stick it out. I'm interested to see kind of what direction they go in. Chris had a really interesting take this week, our producer. What if he doesn't stay around the program and Alabama decides as our next offensive coordinator? I think that would be a really funny twist on things. But this is still, while Auburn came out and said they want to keep Bryan Harsin around, I think this is still, kind of developing and going to be a really, really interesting story to follow.
Guys, thanks for watching us here on Monday Night Quarterback. Make sure you like and subscribe. Hit the thumbs up as we talk to you every Monday night at 6 o'clock. Alabama, right now, just kind of gearing up for the 8A game. They announced that the 8A game would be on, the 16th of April. So that'll be a lot of fun. The same weekend as Easter. And, we'll have you covered on that as well. Auburn, we were talking a little bit of Auburn, and maybe they're struggling in football, but they're doing really well in basketball. And so is Alabama. Alabama's become a state that has two really good basketball teams. I know the Crimson Tide aren't in the top 25 right now, but maybe a week away from getting there. They've had their struggles, but they have a lot of talent. Nate Oates, a great coach. And this week, back on track, they go to Ole Miss, and they absolutely bomb the three after struggling mightily last week against Kentucky to hit threes. And then they get a 13-point lead Saturday against Arkansas. They lose the lead, but then they come back and win the game. So those are two really big wins. Arkansas overtime ended, 19-game winning streak or something for Auburn. And then Alabama beats them. So this week we got Mississippi State and at Kentucky. But let's talk a little Alabama basketball here, Trey. The Ole Miss game and the Arkansas game for Alabama helped them stay in contention for the tournament. And all of a sudden now starting to creep up near that top 4 in the conference.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. I mean, ultimately this season I threw out the conference standings because Alabama's not going to win the conference in the regular season. And, it doesn't matter. We talked about it last week. There's a few teams ahead of, Alabama right now in the SEC that aren't going to make the tournament. Ultimately, Alabama is trying to get in the dance. And I think this week they almost locked themselves in. We talked about it, looking at the schedule last week. Who do they have to beat? What does the overall record need to be for them to, go dancing this March? I think it was really just 2 more wins that, we're not at the bottom of the conference. You beat Arkansas at home, you beat Ole Miss on the road. I think these 2 wins almost lock you into the tournament. You can lose to Kentucky this week. Beating Mississippi State would help. That'd be the icing on the cake. But at this point, Alabama has now had 5 quadrant 1 wins. Your 7 quadrant 1 wins. 5 ranked wins. A team that has beaten the likes of Gonzaga and Baylor and Houston and whatever else. They were fumbling in January and March and late December, but those wins, I've said it time and time again, are just going to continue to carry them. And you see the Joe Lunardi bracketology comes out. As Alabama's a 5 seed right now. So I said it last week. If Alabama is at a 5 seed at this point in the season, I just don't see them slipping back to a point of where they can't at least make it as a 9 seed or an 8 seed. And I think these 2 wins this week secure them. Arkansas is in a very similar position. They had the same record overall coming into this game, but they don't have those wins. They're still on the bubble. Alabama, at this point, you play Vanderbilt, you play South Carolina, you win both of those games, you could lose the rest handily. You don't even have to win a game in the SEC tournament. I think you're still in March Madness this season. The wins are just too powerful at this point. A quick note on Auburn. because I know we don't want to talk about them too often on this show. But, just how scary of a team are we going to see in the tournament this year? Their 2 losses this year in overtime, 2 games they easily could have won. So credit to those guys over there on the Plains. But Alabama could get their chance again in the SEC tournament. Auburn, hasn't beat Alabama 3 times in the same season, and that's a really hard thing to do. So I think Alabama, going into this tournament, the SEC tournament that is, just do what you can. Finish out the rest of this regular season with your head above water. 500 is maybe the best case scenario. I think if you look at this with the way that they've been playing down the stretch here, but 500 gets them into the tournament, and 1 win in the SEC, maybe 2 wins if you really need it. But ultimately what I'm trying to say is this team is good. They're almost locked in, and these 2 wins this past week, close or not, really getting that extra little bit there into the tournament. And hey, a little moral victory here. I don't know if earlier in the season Alabama gets that win over Arkansas after blowing a 13, 15 point lead in that game. The fact that they were able to, kind of keep their minds with a minute to go, 2 minutes to go after giving up the lead speaks volumes about, kind of the changes we've seen on this team, some of the discipline that we see in the backcourt with this team. And overall, it's credit to how good this schedule is. When you're battle tested, when you're playing close games against Houston, against Gonzaga, that's going to really prepare you for close games against, in conference opponents like Arkansas. So, overall for the backlash that this team has gotten for the difficulty of their schedule and, some of the losses that they've accrued because of it, I think that has not prepared them for games like Arkansas, for games we're going to see in March. And ultimately the wins that they've gotten in those games are going to put them into the tournament. So beautiful design by Nate Oates this year. Good to see this team get back on track, and hopefully, they can go at least 500 to finish it out here.
Look, I think they can go better than 500 to finish out the season. Let's take a look at the schedule as it sits right now. Alabama is going to be favorite in most of these games, right? I know Kentucky on Saturday isn't one of them, but Mississippi State at home, that's a must-win game for Alabama coming up Wednesday, which, by the way, you and I will be back on Wednesday at 5 o'clock, and then the basketball game's at 6. We're going to pop on and do another show then. At Kentucky, I don't think that is necessarily a loss for Alabama. Last game against Kentucky, they shot horrible, and they still only lost 66-55. Like, if they get hot like they did in the Ole Miss game, parts of the Arkansas game, I could see them possibly winning that game. But they're going to be an underdog in that one. And, Kentucky's ranked 4th. That I just say that's a loss. I'm going to say Mississippi State's a win. That's a loss. At Vanderbilt, you should win that game, although it is sometimes tough in that arena. But I think that's a must win. South Carolina at home, you're going to win that one. Texas A&M can play some defense. That's another home game, though. I think you're going to win that. And then at LSU, last year, they couldn't miss at LSU. But look, we'll say that's a loss. So that's better than 500. If you pull, if you just win the ones that you're supposed to win, you're 500, right? But I think that they're going to win. Well, no, because I put the Vanderbilt game in there. So look, I think that they should at least win 4 of these games, and they could possibly win all of them, even Kentucky.
Yeah, I think I said a moment ago, best case scenario is 500. I meant to say worst case scenario because, like you said, you look at the schedule and you take that Vanderbilt game, that South Carolina game. You don't lock them in as wins necessarily, but those are incredibly winnable games at least. And Mississippi State too, LSU. This is a very winnable end of the stretch. And, for as big of an underdog as they're going to be at Kentucky this Saturday, like you said, that's a winnable game. I mean, they really looked poorly offensively, which is something – in their losses, even they haven't done a lot of this year. They've scored at least 70 points in some of these losses. So if they can come out and stop the best player in the country in Chibwe again on Saturday, they could easily win that game. And then you go down the rest of the stretch here and you're playing teams that matchup wise, I think Alabama lines up, super well against. You can beat South Carolina. Alabama is almost a bigger version of South Carolina this season. They've defeated LSU. Texas A&M is a team of runs. They're a very streaky team this year, but a team that Alabama, I think, can kind of control the pace and get that game at home. You can win that game. Ultimately, you say Mississippi State's a must-win. I don't even know if that's the case. I don't think any of these games are must-win games. You can't lose all of them, I guess. You can't go, 0 for 6 here the rest of the way. you're not going to make the tournament if you do that. But, at this point, you get, I'm going to say, a floor of 2 wins, and you are a lock. At the very worst is a 9 seed in the NCAA tournament. And, even if they are, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. This team has kind of rallied around, being the underdog in a lot of these games. You look at that Baylor game, the Gonzaga game, Houston, they weren't the favorites in those games. And, they brought the energy from the jump. I guess maybe they tried to kind of close that gap energy-wise early in those games. I think we could see that in March. You look at UConn back in 2011, they were a 9 seed. You look at the UConn team a few years later, they were an 11 seed. We've seen this happen. Syracuse a few years ago, there's the 11 seed as well, getting to the Final Four. Even last season, UCLA, I believe they were an 11 seed. They beat Alabama. They got to the Final Four, and we're an overtime away from going to the national title. So anything can happen in March. I think we look at it from a football, point of view sometimes, and take every loss a little bit more seriously than we need to. Because in basketball, you can lose games. Who gets hot at the right time? Maybe Alabama's that team. They're looking pretty hot right now.
Yep. J.D. Davidson had 6 turnovers, but besides that, offensively looked the best that he has. Of course, Shackelford and Quinterly have been good, inconsistent, but good at times, and they're your star players. Gurley's been good. So it's not going to be a fun March Madness if Alabama's not in there. Right now, I'm seeing them as a 5 seed, but a lot can change here. They've got to win these winnable games. They have as you mentioned, all of the big time wins that they need. They just need to accumulate some of these dubs just to make the record look a little bit better. You don't want any more Georgia type losses. Mississippi State, they lost there. Missouri was a bad loss. So still coming down the stretch run. I love having Nate Oates there. And I think this is going to be a very interesting team to watch. I never know what to expect with them in that Arkansas game up until they went ice cold shooting and started turning the ball over. I thought, man, they're going to blow these guys out of the building. And they've got the potential to do that. But they're really athletic, and it's going to be a lot of fun to see how this back end schedule turns out for Alabama with a lot of winnable games on there. All right, guys, look, we love having you on here, part of our Monday Night Quarterback Show on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Let me throw this up there for everybody. I've talked about Westgate Luxury Condominiums, the official host of Monday Night QB. Let me show you right there with your own 2 eyes. It is luxurious. The crew there is fantastic, Jillian and all her peeps. The rooms are fantastic. They're spacious. The Sub-Zero kitchens, they're as nice as it gets. The oversized balcony, you're 200 feet from Bryant-Denny Stadium. You're right there by the Walk of Champions. You're near Denny Chimes. You're near the Quad. You're near campus, all of that stuff. WestgateAL.com, you got 900 to 3,000 square foot units. They're 1 to 5 bedroom units available. You can buy them, rent them out. You're always going to have someone wanting to rent that with campus being right there. So it's not like you're going to rent it out and not have someone that wants it, or maybe you just want it for yourself. Game days are fantastic at the Skygate Club on the roof, and we appreciate them being a part of the Bama Insider YouTube channel, BamaInsider.com, and Monday Night Quarterback. WestgateAL.com. All right, Trey, anything else before we pack things up on Monday Night Quarterback?
Yeah, I'm excited to get back to Westgate after seeing that. I think we might have the chance there for 8 days, so hopefully we can get over there. But happy Valentine's Day, guys. Enjoy the day. Like I said, it should be a holiday, so take it easy. Get your breathers in throughout the day. But overall, guys, thanks for joining us as always here. Hit that like button on the way out and get in the comments. Let us know what you're thinking, guys. It's been so fun as we get into the offseason to kind of hear your thoughts about, what's to come, what you expect out of these transfers, some of these new coaches, and really, this 2022 team that is priming to be another maybe potentially championship team. I don't want to say anything too yet. Put that rat poison out there. But yeah, thanks, guys, for being here. Excited to join you on Wednesday, so be sure to check that show out as well.
Yeah, we got recruiting with Andrew Bone. Kyle Henderson will pop on. Anything going on around the Alabama football program, we've got it for you right here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Thanks to Chris Daughtry for his work behind the scenes. For Trey Annity, I'm Mick Gillespie. Roll Tide, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you again on Wednesday at 5 o'clock and then next Monday for Monday Night Quarterback.